me! Fuck! The event you are about to see took place in Miami, Florida, between October 1994 and June 95. Unfortunately, this is a true story. My name is Daniel Luger. 6 months earlier, the runner, who also works as a spotter, walks into a fitness hub and meets his gym freak buddies, giving them instructions. All of my heroes are self-made. They all started out with nothing and built their way to perfection. And I was tired of clients petting me. What next? If it seems like it would be fun to you, I mean, if you want it, I meant what exercise is next. It hurts. Wanting more, he applies for a job at Sun Gym, aiming to work with older clients and the upper class, promising to triple the company's income. He repeats the same pitch to another boss, and then another, even flattering an elderly woman to win her over. Look at those eyes. Wow. He convinces the first boss that his criminal record is nothing to stress over and then gets hired on the spot. Just as he promised, the gym's membership explodes under his Midas touch. Then Victor, one of the members, tells him he's capable of earning far more, and the idea electrifies him. He even ropes Adrian in for motivation. Soon he's attending Wu's conference, getting fired up all over again. And he walks out with a private mentorship from Wu himself. The guy now has a plan to chase his idea of the American dream, find a rich friend, and quietly steal his money without him noticing. You deserve better. Be a doer. Which one are you, Playboy? Me? Say it like you want to hunt it, skin it, and knot its head on your walls. Superman, I'm a dog, I do it, I'm a dog, I'm a dog. With Adrian already on board, they need one more recruit, and they settle on the big guy, Paul, a powder-sniffing ex-con. Is that breast milk? Why would that be breast milk? Man, you're already big, but you could be bigger. Oh my, you ever suck a pregnant woman titty? Oh my God, this is so good. Come on, try some. Serena, a beauty queen who came to the States for a better life, is also added to the group, and Daniel takes an interest in her immediately. The new recruit eventually understands what the team expects from him, but he turns down the offer, trying hard to start a new life. But things get difficult as the day goes by, with his helpers seemingly making a move on him, but that doesn't end well for the older man. He returns to Daniel, who explains that the plan is a simple snatch and grab, a mild kidnap job that could make them rich. They visit the arms shop, navigate their way there, and leave, desperado style. Come on, just hit me. Come on, do it. The plan starts to take shape as the squad leader lays out the details. On D-Day, when they reach the compound, they find the house crowded with guests. The trio abandons the mission, fleeing in panic like amateurs in a spy movie. He's having Shabbat. Mission report, mission. Oh, go. I don't want to go back to prison. They go back to the drawing board and come up with a better plan, but it ends in disaster again. How does he get to be a ninja? The two recruits, dressed like strange ninjas, keep searching in the wrong places for their target. Meanwhile, the man, unaware of the scheme, strolls to his car, even flipping off the driver for being a nuisance in the parking lot. Within seconds, the squad erupts into a blame session, with Daniel furious at Muscle Man over the costly mistake. Another plan is hatched, this time without the big guy on the field, and the kidnapping succeeds. Adrian repeatedly uses the taser on the man, who stubbornly tries to resist every attempt to subdue him. They reach their base, strap the man to a chair, and blindfold him. Almost immediately, the victim recognizes Daniel's cologne, making it clear that he knows who is behind his ordeal. The mastermind doesn't waver, pressing on with his plan to ruin Victor for life. Come on. As soon as I said it, I knew I sealed my fate. They force the victim to call his family and associates, telling them not to worry about him anymore, as he is having a new experience. Meanwhile, after making him fire his secretary, the big guy visits the man's office and makes off with some of his property. The boss returns to his regular job to maintain an alibi, while Paul stays behind to watch their captive. The two end up talking like old friends after realizing they've both been sober for a while, with Paul even apologizing for the kidnapping. His heart softens, and he gives the man a snack, then converts the Jewish victim to Christianity right there. The mastermind returns and tries to force the victim to sign some documents, but he resists it. Later, Paul continues his friendly conversation with Victor, who even gives him a nickname that Paul gladly accepts. Daniel returns to Serena, who scolds him for lying about being a music video director. Instead of backing down, he doubles the lie, claiming he's a CIA agent and wants to recruit her. The lie excites her, and she promises to prove she can handle agent work. Victor is reading from the newspaper to his blindfolded captive turned buddy when the man suddenly tries to escape. He doesn't get far before Paul knocks him down and out, instantly feeling guilty afterward. The boss keeps looking for ways to break the victim and force him to sign, but the man is strong-willed. You ready to sign now? No. After repeated attempts and a harsh torture routine, he finally gives in and signs the documents. Are you ready to sign now? I hate you. Thanks, buddy. His next stop is the finance office, where Daniel submits the signed papers to authorize the transfer of Victor's funds. But the banker explains that Victor and a notary should be physically present to initiate it, a major blow to the mission that sends Daniel into frustration and panic. He goes to meet John, a notary, hoping to convince him to release his stamp for the transfer, but he refuses. Daniel then uses Victor's signature to approve sponsorship for a gym competition, making way for the boss to use his stamp as a notary on the transfer document. The finance officer will make do with that, so he approves the transfer, and Daniel walks out feeling like a proud thief that he is. But the boss realizes the victim can identify him if he's released, so he convinces the team that the man must die, even making Paul believe he's in more danger than if Victor survives. They get the man drunk, put him in a car, and stage an accident. Fortunately for Victor, Adrian had strapped him in, leaving him with only minor injuries. Daniel sets the car on fire, but as they walk back to their own vehicle, the man with 7 lives steps out of the burning car with only minimal burns. The boss then convinces Paul to run him over and put an end to it. Paul doesn't, yet the man still survives. The boss orders the driver to go over him again, this time pressing the tires onto the man's face to finally ending his suffering. They flee the scene as the police arrive, just in time to save Victor. I was still alive. At the hospital, the victim, now with a disfigured face, gives the officers attitude. The cops don't believe anything he says, assuming he's a criminal who simply ran into other criminals and got what he deserved. The disfigured man phones Ed, a private detective, to explain his situation and ask for help, but Ed turns down the case. Still, out of goodwill, he advises Victor to leave the hospital immediately for his safety. Moments later, the 3 criminals arrive at the hospital dressed as surgeons, only to find the ward empty. A real doctor confronts Daniel, who lies that he is a fellow surgeon. The doctor casually mentions that the police don't believe a word of the escaped patient's story about being tortured by bodybuilders. This gives the criminals peace of mind, and they begin enjoying their loot. Fast cars, new apartments, women, and more. Daniel even moves into Victor's apartment, claiming Victor gifted it to him after supposedly running off with another woman. As the luxury life continues for the team, Adrian proposes to his girlfriend, while Paul kicks off a relationship with Serena and goes back to his old habit. Ed eventually decides to help Victor. He begins staking out the criminals and speaks with employees at Victor's former company, all of whom praise Daniel, their new boss. Daniel and his crew gather the neighbors and host a seminar on how to identify and defend themselves from attackers, strengthening their image as good neighbors. Later, the private detective joins Soon Jim and casually strikes up a conversation with Daniel, mentioning that Victor recommended the place. This makes Daniel uneasy, though he forces a smile. Meanwhile, Paul has blown all his money on hotels, designer items for Serena, and the stuff he gets high from. Desperate, he turns to stealing, unfortunately from the police. After a short chase, he opens the stolen bag and a dive bomb explodes in his face. The police catch up to him, but he manages to escape. He's chased again, this time with guns firing. The big guy runs, dives into a river, and even after getting a toe shot off, as he swims off, he still evades arrest and eventually shows up at Adrian's wedding looking like a homeless man. He tells Daniel he has identified another rich target for a new job, but Daniel scolds him for wasting his entire share and now wanting another hit. When the newly married Adrian meets his friends, he sides with Paul, explaining that he also spent all his cash on a new house and needs to recoup. At his hideout, Victor calls John to explain everything that happened with the bodybuilders, though he speaks the same way he did with the police. John takes the information to Daniel, but Daniel responds by forcing him into the river to calm him down. When Victor calls again, Daniel makes John try to get his address, but Victor refuses. Still, Daniel manages to trace the call, and when they arrive, they find that Victor has escaped. The team attempt to get information from the receptionist, but he refuses to reveal who pays for Victor's room. Paul threatens him and forces him outside, giving Daniel the opportunity to discover the truth. It's Ed, his client from the gym. They storm the detective's home, unaware he is away with the police chief, trying to convince the police boss that Victor has a solid case and isn't the criminal they labeled him to be. The criminals wait and watch the house, but just then, police cars pull up and drop Ed off, forcing the trio to slip away. Ed's wife reveals Victor's message, so Ed heads to Victor's hiding place and brings him home for proper care. Meanwhile, Daniel knows he must find a better way to handle what's coming, so he devises another plan. The team meets Frank and presents a proposal that will allow them to infiltrate a certain Indian market. Frank agrees to invest in their scheme and brings along his girlfriend, Christina. They move the meeting to Adrian's apartment while his wife is at work. As the others joke around with Christina, Daniel and Frank step into a private room to talk. Frank admits he doesn't trust Daniel's abilities and even calls the men amateurs, angering Daniel. The argument escalates into a fight, and in the struggle, Frank's head is crushed by a weight plate. Christina walks in and finds her boyfriend lying in a pool of blood. She immediately pulls a gun, but Daniel blocks her shot. The others rush in, overpower her, and inject her with a horse tranquilizer to knock her out cold. With one dead body and another barely conscious, a terrified Adrian is ordered to clean up the blood while Daniel and Paul head to the victim's house to access his safe. The code they got from Christina doesn't work, and when they call Adrian to make her repeat it, it's useless. She had tried to escape, was given another shot of the tranquilizer, and is likely dead. The men take whatever valuables they can find, and before they leave, Paul inexplicably hands his severed toe to Frank's puppy. They later move both bodies from Adrian's apartment to a secure spot and begin devising their next plan. Meanwhile, Victor's dog, which has been staying with Adrian, escapes and finds someone it recognizes, leading the person to report the missing beast to the police. Frank's dog keeps the severed toe, and upon the arrival of Frank's associate, she freaks out and calls the police, and an investigation begins in earnest. Daniel and Adrian buy cleaning supplies for the bodies, but first, in order to destroy the fingerprints. Adrian's wife returns home, and when she takes out the trash, she discovers the bin is filled with blood-stained clothes, getting her scared. That same day, the police chief finally connects the disappearance of Frank and his girlfriend to the Bodybuilders. Also bringing the case to Ed's attention, Daniel and Adrian return from buying a better chainsaw to finish the job, only to find Paul literally grilling the hands of the deceased in the open. Under the influence of the and with his mind and emotions in turmoil, Paul leaves a note for the team and runs off, claiming it is a religious move. The remaining duo continue the work, packing the bodies into a drum and dumping it into the river. At the station, the police chief briefs his officers on the operation and sends them out to neutralize the targets simultaneously. On the day of reckoning, before Paul gets hit by a police car, the police arrest Adrian and his wife at home without resistance, while Muscle Man is later found in a church and taken into custody without also putting up a fight. Daniel manages to evade arrest even after being fired at and escapes using Victor's boat. With Victor regaining his properties, he informs the police about a secret stash in the Bahamas. Ed realizes this might be where their target is headed, and while the Coast Guard searches the rivers, they prepare to strike the City of Islands. Daniel arrives there in time, posing as Victor and demanding the closure of his bank accounts, which the manager complies with. He also asks for the safe box, but is disappointed to find it filled only with funny personal items. Just then, Ed and his men arrive with a warrant. Seeing the target inside, Daniel bolts, sparking a chase. He manages to get out of the building, but Ed spots him and fires, hitting him in the leg. Daniel limps away and blends into a crowded market. Victor, watching from a car, refuses to let his enemy escape. He floors the accelerator, drives straight into Daniel, and slams him against a wall. He steps out and finds Daniel unable to move, the stolen cash scattered around him. Daniel is flown back to the country, and during the flight he brags about almost getting away with everything. He's shocked when the plane lands, and an entire station's worth of officers is waiting to receive him as though he were a major international fugitive. At the trial, Serena still believes she is a CIA operative, while Adrian's wife divorces him and testifies against him, even mocking him in court by mentioning his erectile dysfunction. Daniel is confident they can't be linked to the murders. Even when officers recover the drums containing the bodies from the river, they find no fingerprints to match the bodies with. Christina's breast implants become the key evidence as the police trace the serial numbers through the manufacturer. Paul, now remorseful, begins a tell-it-all session, calling Daniel and Adrian murderers and describing Daniel as a master manipulator. Daniel is sure no one will believe the testimony of an addict, but their luck ends when Victor is called in to testify against them. Muscle Man gets 15 years, and instead of sulking, he treats it like a scholarship, joining the prison choir and singing hymns like a saint. Meanwhile, Daniel and Adrian, the actual criminals, are slammed with everything in the legal dictionary: double murder, racketeering, attempted extortion, theft, attempted murder, armed robbery, burglary, money laundering, and forgery. Ed sums up their brilliance perfectly. The jury took only a few minutes to decide their fate: death. Behind bars, Daniel reflects on the chaos, insisting it all began as a simple chase for the American dream. And despite everything, he swears he'll bounce back and return to what he loves most: fitness. And just like that, the curtain falls on a wild, unbelievable, true story.